What up, nerds, and welcome to another hot episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 460, recorded Sunday, January 28th, 2024. Tonight we're talking about the latest from your boy Barnaby Clay. The movie is The Seeding. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, man?
What's going on, children?
How do, Bobby? How we holding up? We about ready to get seated?
Seed me, daddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a bump. I knew I could prompt you into something. There you go. We got it.
I'm an easy mark. I got to make it harder for you. This is not fair.
I just don't think that you're gonna. No, I don't think that trying is gonna help.
That's also another bump. I got to make it harder for you. That's. I mean,
I know everything you say. You are Tobias Funke, is what I'm gathering.
I can't stop
You blow
myself.
hard.
I am blowing hard. Last but not least, calling in from Florida, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Beaver Moonstains. That's a third cousin of Sherry Moon, I believe.
I can smell a beaver from 30 miles away. Beaver!
God damn. If your boy Rob and Sherry had a kid, would they name it Beaver? Probably.
After me? Probably.
Yeah. Leave it to Beaver. That's the aesthetic that Rob Zombie, I assume, will want to have in his lifestyle.
Me and Bob Zom are tight, you know?
Bob Zom. Oh, wow.
My boy Bob Zom.
You got him a little nickname. That's cute. That's real cute.
I had dinner at my boy Bob Zom's house. They vegan, so it's a bunch of veg.
Yes.
You know. Yeah, we're talking about The Seeding. We did actually just recently interview Barnaby Clay, the writer, director, and editor of this movie, actually, last week. That interview is in our main feed. Feel free to check that out. It's a spoiler-free interview, so you don't have to worry about The Seeding being spoiled. But this movie is currently on VOD everywhere, and it also has a limited theatrical run happening, so check out The Seeding. Before we get into our discussion, though, let's tackle just a little bit of housekeeping real quick there, gentlemen. This is your final reminder. Our February poll is currently posted on our Patreon website. The theme for February is Mad Romance. The movies you're voting on are From Beyond, Spring, and Byzantium.
Bob. For the last time, how are those numbers looking?
For the last time. From Beyond still in first place with 52% of the vote. Byzantium's coming up a bit, 30%.
There we go.
Holy shit. Spring, last place, 17%. I'm never going to pick Spring again. This is it. I think I've picked it 3 times now, or something. It just keeps losing. If
well, the good Lord wants you to watch Spring, you're going to have to do it on your own time, I think.
People don't want to see it.
It's like Casper. Eventually a Casper will get.
It will, yeah.
Well, just keep you picking enough times in 10 years.
Just keep going.
All it takes is a few decades, and eventually those numbers will come up the way you want them.
Eventually we'll run out of movies.
And this is the only one left. So I guess we're talking about Casper and then Spring, and then that's it.
Final episodes. That's it.
Get those votes in. The time of this episode dropping will actually be the last day of the month. So get those votes in real quick, and we'll see what movie we're talking about this February. In other Patreon news, we got minicast dropping every other Friday, as per usual. The next minicast coming up is going to drop on Friday, February the 2nd, and that's going to be a review for Saltburn, your boy Soju, and myself talking about.
Whoa! That's a big one. That's a big one.
Yes, that's what a boy likes.
That's what some boys like.
Yeah, lots of people should like that one. So yeah, that was a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was. It's a longer mini cast. It was about 50 minutes or so.
Oh, was it? Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot to get into with that movie. It's super fucking weird. I think it's really best to go into it not knowing anything about it. It's on Amazon Prime. Just put it on, watch it. Just know that there's a lot of weird sexual stuff. That's
weird is subjective, Bob. Well, I mean, some might say normal sexual stuff.
Not vanilla sexual stuff.
There you go.
Honey, Barbara.
Not Bob's sexual stuff is what you're saying.
Not Soju sexual stuff either. We
Wow.
got into it on the mini.
Maybe it's for me. Maybe it's going to be a sexual awakening when I finally watch this film.
Randy,
I hope so.
If you watch it and are like, oh yeah, that's everything I've ever wanted out of the bedroom, we're talking about it.
I'm an executive by day and a wild man by night.
Randy.
We all know.
Randy. Oh my goodness. I'm telling your mother. Yeah, check that out over on Patreon Friday, February the 2nd. In other Patreon news, we do have a brand new Patreon supporter we got to give mad shouts outs to. Big thanks to Derek B for signing up and showing us some love. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. Really means a lot to us. Truly does help us keep the show going. And as is tradition around these here parts, we owe Derek B the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to you, Derek.
Slap my ass.
Thank you.
Thanks for the mighty slap, Derek. We appreciate.
A salute fit for the movie Saltburn, no doubt.
Yes.
Hashtag appreciate you.
Appreciate you. That's all we got for Patreon. Do you guys have anything you would like to plug?
I do. By the time this episode is out, this previous Monday, looking back, there was a brand new Creature Comforts that was dropped, and that was me and Shaboy Dan talking about The Conversation from 1974. So this was a Francis Ford Coppola film that came out right after the Godfather, actually.
Cool.
So yeah, sandwiched in between the two Godfathers, actually, and I don't know how accurate this is, but Gene Hackman said it was his favorite role that he ever did. So, and
definitely one of his most iconic.
Yeah.
Although I haven't seen it, like that's definitely a movie that's been like his name and that movie are inseparable.
Yeah,
and that movie has a reputation for being fucking, incredible.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. That so you say that I didn't really know much about it, and then as I had to look into that movie, I found out that it does have a huge reputation. But it is kind of that one was like, oh, but I've never seen it. Like stuff like, you know what? It's like I think I say this a couple of times throughout. It really kind of has the vibe of what a lot of like Hitchcock films kind of have, where it's on that verge of horror, or it definitely could be discussed in the realm of horror easily, but I just never see it brought up in the horror realm. I don't know. It was a really good film. Yeah, it was really
I genuinely had no idea that it had any horror elements at all. I thought it was like a political thriller or something, but
yeah, it's a lot of paranoia. So the premise is there's this guy who is a specialist in like wiretapping, spying on people essentially, and he's just naturally kind of paranoid because of the nature of his job. And then he's like working on these clients, and then he like thinks that like maybe something nefarious might be going on. So it's like a lot of paranoia, like. So yeah, I don't know. It was cool. It was impressive to me.
Well,
so
here come the demons.
Yeah, we had a really good discussion about it too. So appreciate Dan from Don't Believe the Hype, which is the Arctic Monkeys podcast I was featured on last month. So yeah, check them out as well.
You pulled my cord, so I have to say, who the fuck's Arctic Monkeys?
There you go. You need that bump.
Could you say it's a poly sci-fi movie, perhaps?
No? What the fuck does that mean?
I don't fucking know. I'm just out here.
like political science. Yes. Okay, I was thinking POLY, like
it's
like
actually
poly as a sexuality. I was like, damn, Gene,
political,
get it?
Yeah, political.
It's not political at all. I think the only thing that like lives in people's minds about it being political is it just so happened, just luck would have it to come out around like the Nixon stuff. So
I thought that had something to do with that. So that makes sense.
No, it was one of those things. Yeah, like our boy Frankie, who just like dropped something at the perfect time.
Man, sometimes you just boy Frankie.
I want to say things, but have people have no shadow of a chance of understanding what I'm saying.
Franklin Rich, the artifice girl.
I'll never forget. Like that is our whole MO. I mean, Jesus Christ!
True,
I remember vividly you telling us we had the old tin.
Yeah, come on, Lob.
We, the people you were speaking this language to, had no fucking idea what you were talking about.
We got the old tin.
For those who have no idea what's going on, which is everyone, that was Rob's way of saying we have 10 minutes until class starts. We got the old tin.
Well, boys, looks like we got the old tin. Yes.
I mean, it made sense to me at the time, okay?
Yeah, I know. That's why we needed to go to class real bad.
Real fucking bad. The last little thing I want to throw in here is your boy Joe Bob Briggs is coming back with a double feature for Valentine's Day on Shudder. I know. He's doing that Friday, February 9th, and we're going to be hosting a watch party per usual. So check that out. It's going to start 9 p.m. Eastern, Friday, February 9th. And if you do want to join the watch party, I'll send out a link so you can do so. It's going to be on all of our social media platforms. I usually send out maybe like 15 minutes before showtime starts. So keep an eye on that and join in on the fun. Watch whatever movies he's showing and chat with the squad.
Sounds like a blast.
There you go.
Nice.
Everybody clean? You got your assholes clean? Or no?
I did forget to mention, talking about secret language, I did forget to mention that you can listen to our conversation exclusively on the Straight Chillin' YouTube page. Thank you.
There you go. All right. You finally picked up the last of it. We got it.
This house is clean.
All right.
I got to redo that bump with the Skinamarink this house in there.
This house is clean.
In this house, we clean. All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking about the seating, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Larb?
Hi.
Bob,
Hello.
when you going to order this box?
Whenever you can. I don't see a
ASAP,
pre-order
huh?
yet. Yeah, so remains to be seen. The Seeding is a new movie written and directed by Barnaby Clay. Your boy Barney. Your boy.
Yeah, it's soon, yeah. Got my boy Frankie, my boy
that, I'm sure.
It's got a runtime of an hour and 40 minutes. It stars Scott Hayes, Caitlin Scheel, Alex Montaldo, and some other folks. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. A man finds himself trapped in a desert canyon with a woman living off-grid who is captive to a pack of sadistic boys.
Bunch of yo-yos.
Bunch of fucking yo-yos. Gentle Mangs, we'd all seen this once before, I know, because it was one of the festivals last year. BFON, I think.
BFON was the first one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we watched it last
I think more than one, actually.
July, I think. And I did a little write-up for this movie on our website back then. We have all been able to rewatch it since then. So not a first-time watch for us. Would you fellas recommend folks check out The Seeding? Ray and Deezy, kick us off.
Yes, I would. We've had some discussions about this already, not just on that post that Bob mentioned, but we talked with Barnaby last week, spoiler free, as Bob mentioned, and it only kind of solidified that I definitely think this is a flick worth watching this year. So, yes, firm,
yes. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, what I would say is The Seeding is definitely a haunting tale that takes root in the soul. So boys, my goal today is
are you sneaking in AI prompts or something?
No, okay. I'm sneaking in. I got to get on the box. Here's my goal. I got to get a soju quote on the box.
On the box. Oh.
It takes hold of your fucking soul.
My whole goal is to get on the box today. But no, I would, we mentioned this before a couple times, it was a recommendation for us, at the end of our 2023 list, upcoming movies. I mentioned it with Barnaby when we did the interview with him, but this was in my top 10 list for 2023 until I found out it wasn't going to be coming out in 2023. So, it would have stomped, some of even my favorite films that came out last year.
Goddamn stomped.
Annihilated.
See, Onyx.
Onyx is getting
that's the box quote right there. It would have stomped my favorite films of the previous year.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I would recommend people check this out. Absolutely. And so far, 2024, it's the best horror film out this year. So there you go.
Wow, there you go.
Of the two movies.
Bob, would you recommend people check out The Seeding?
Yeah, totally, for sure. I definitely was a fan of this when we watched it last summer, and I think it holds up quite nicely. It's fucked up, it's bleak, but in a good way, in a way that you want your horror movies to be. So definitely check this one out. If you can catch it in the theater, I would recommend watching it in the theater. But if not, watch it at home, Turn it up loud, throw it on, enjoy yourself. Sounds like a pretty solid recommendation across the board from the Straight Chilling crew. We are going to be spoiling the shit out of the seating, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, do you have that plot synopsis?
I do.
Oh, yeah. He does. Here it is.
We're hunting for dick.
There you go.
Well,
It's so accurate. I couldn't have said it better myself.
well, you did. Bob, go ahead and hit us with that plot synopsis.
All right, here you go. So the movie opens up with a child in the desert eating a human finger. We then meet our main character, Wyndham Stone. He drives into the desert and takes photographs of the lunar eclipse. He finds another child who claims to have lost his parents. Wyndham tries to help, but ends up just being led deeper into the desert, and he eventually gets lost. He happens upon a large canyon with a cabin at the bottom. He hears a woman singing, and he climbs down a ladder to ask to use the phone. She has no phone, but offers him a meal. He attempts to eat it, but the meat looks kind of weird, so he pushes it away and just drinks water instead. He ends up staying the night. The following morning, he tries to leave, but the ladder is gone. Wyndham then tries to climb out of the canyon, but someone throws a severed pig head down at him. He ends up falling, and he gets knocked out. When he wakes up...
And you can't piss on hospitality! I won't allow it!
You certainly can. When he wakes up, he finds his pick has impaled his leg. The woman pulls it out and cleans his wound. He is injured, but he's able to hobble around. The woman's very shy, a bit cagey. She doesn't offer any context for their situation, but says she can feed him and take care of him. A kid appears at the top of the canyon and says he can pull Wyndham out with a winch. He throws a rope down and Wyndham ties himself off. They hoist him up about halfway and then stop. They let him dangle in the sun for hours. Another kid ends up peeing on his face. He wakes up. They start shaking him around, and Wyndham eventually cracks his head on the side of the canyon wall and passes out yet again. He wakes up the following morning in the house, and the woman says the kids are just a bunch of strays that the desert has brought together. The kids lower down some supplies, including 2 chickens, some gasoline, and a bottle of whiskey. Later that night, Wyndham gets hammered and has sex with a woman. The next day, Wyndham plants some seeds, and another kid named Lepus appears, asking what he's doing. Wyndham offers to teach him all kinds of cool things if he can just get him out of the canyon. The kid says he will return with some rope, and the woman ends up telling Wyndham that she is pregnant with his child, and he's not super stoked about that.
Fucking idiot.
The following morning, Lepus, the Lepus kid, is found strung up across the top of the canyon and is, if not dead, he's certainly dying. The woman is very upset and ends up yelling at all the other kids. She knocks Wyndham's ass out and locks him in a cage. The kids and the woman have a wild-ass ceremony around a bonfire where she wears a necklace full of penises and breastfeeds the boys. Wyndham tells the woman he has now chosen a life with her and wants to live in the desert and raise their child together. The woman says he has no choice. She then starts birthing her child. She opens the cage and lets Wyndham out. She lets him hold the newborn baby girl. The woman says she will love her and raise her to become the new mother, which will then fulfill all of her own purposes. She takes the baby back, looks at Wyndham, and says he too has fulfilled all of his purposes. And shortly after that, one of the boys sneaks up behind him, cuts his throat, and he bleeds out to death. The movie ends with Wyndham's corpse rotting in the desert sun. Roll credits.
All right. Upbeat. I got to immediately ask a question because your synopsis said something that I had somehow not noticed twice in a row, which is the penis necklace.
I didn't notice that either.
Are you you're sure about that? Because I missed it twice now.
Me too.
It is like a couple frames. It's real
okay.
Real
I missed
quick.
it.
And I was not clear for at least my memory of that scene is that it was ambiguous whether or not it actually happened or if it was a hallucination.
Oh yeah, because it is play out kind of like a dream, but I think you can go either way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is ambiguous one way or the other, but like whether or not it did, I definitely didn't notice that bit. So thank you for letting me know that.
Bunch
That's
of
interesting.
severed dicks on a necklace.
Damn, I have to go back and check that out real quick.
We are hunting for dick.
Yeah, well,
nice and clean that time.
She's got her trophies.
We got a cleaned up bump there, Randy. Here we go. Now, one thing I remember as I was going back to revisit this is when I watched it for the first time at BFun, I remember like texting you guys and be like, okay, I just watched this movie and it's got the vibe of like The Hills Have Eyes mixed with Midsummer, which I think still kind of like holds up in a way. And one of the things that's like kind of interesting is like when we did the interview with Barnaby, I was asking him like, oh, like, is there any like specific folklore tied to this? And he was like, no, not specific. Like I wasn't necessarily referencing anything, but you've got these kind of like paintings on the walls of this woman most of the time in kind of like this snake-like form. And then you also have these chapters, which really help us like move through time. But it's got that kind of, I don't know, it still kind of reminds me of like the tapestry from Midsummer. And, like they're there for like a specific time of the year where like traditions happen and stuff like that. So I think that still kind of like holds true in my mind of like, which is an interesting blend of, movies.
I mean, even in Midsummer, that stuff was invented. So it's not like it's outside of the realm of possibility that like, he found some like parts. Like obviously there's a little bit of like, like I think it's just like culturally known stuff that he kind of pulled from like Wiccan stuff that like, or whatever, or, like nature worship sort of things and all that shit to sort of emphasize the like cycle of life, which is clearly the center of this whole thing. And so like, but it's like the fact that it's ambiguous what the individual components mean, like what all those items on the plate that we see multiple times in the interstitial cards, like those can like the mystery of what those are. It doesn't need to be answered at all because we know ultimately what it amounts to. But it just like the fact that it is oblique makes it like just it feels like the mystery is still there. I saw some complaints of this movie about the mystery being telegraphed from the beginning, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
No, not necessarily. I personally don't really get Midsummer vibes from this because like the main thing that I get from Midsummer is like it's a bright, sunshiny spring day and everything's lush and green and pretty, but there's really awful stuff happening under the surface. This is a more like isolated kind of movie, and I do think perhaps if we would have spent more time like above ground with like all the kids and what they live in what they refer to as the palace, like maybe we would get some more background information and like it might feel a little more midsummery in that way. But I don't know that the movie needs that, but I am like insanely curious as to like where they live and how they live. They have their own language that it turns out the woman also speaks. Like, how did they develop that? How long has this been going on? Because she references the original mother. There's like a portrait of her in the house, and the baby girl that she gives birth to is going to be her successor. So like, how many generations has this been going on? And like, why? Like, how did this start, man? It's really interesting. A lot of questions to chew on.
And like they have some modern stuff, but you don't know whether or not that modern stuff came as a result of, I don't know, of just their victims, like, foraging from their items. Like I'm sure that Wyndham's car was brought out to the desert, A, to conceal his disappearance, and B, to use for whatever purposes the kids have or the woman have for it. Like they have Coca-Cola coming from somewhere. So I don't know. Like I think that there's something like still sort of mysterious about it. Like you said, like I think they leave open enough like doors for you to sort of travel down in this that you don't necessarily need to have every answer. I do think it's fairly clear relatively early on what his role is to her, but we don't know what her relationship is with the boys that easily. Like I don't know that we get like the full picture, and I don't think we really ever do. So the idea that there's no mystery in this early in the movie just doesn't really track for me.
Yeah, I guess if the only thing that you would consider the mystery is like why is he specifically down in the canyon, is like you might be able to assume. Why are they not letting him leave? Yeah, you might be able to assume like, okay, well he's gonna have sex with this woman, and that's where these boys are coming from. But like that's. I don't know. Like,
well, the name of the movie is The Seeding. I don't even think it's hiding that.
Yeah,
really. Like, I think it just takes a few minutes to figure that out, and maybe that's the mystery people feel like was like too obvious. But there's mysteries on top of that, and they're like
a lot,
the ambiguity of and a lot of them are like to me, they're not mysteries that need to be answered. They're ambiguous mysteries that are like unknowable to you, whose point of view character is the guy who can't know any of this
who's in a pit
and is figuring it out bit by bit and doesn't know the name of the movie is The Fucking Seeding. He doesn't know that. So I don't know. Like, if you put yourself in the shoes of your lead character, as I did, like, then I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
That poor dude is so fucked. Like, the first time I watched this, as soon as he started following that kid in the desert, I was like, this dude's so fucked. He's just so
man, that kid, there's a couple of standout performances from the kids, but that first one
looks like a System of a Down music video.
Man, he's such a little shitty kid. Like, you know, he dumps the water out, or he's like, don't touch me or whatever. He leads him around. Oh man, he's
Randy with the burn.
He's the Ariel's music video. No, I mean, not to burn the kid, but like he's got like that same menacing energy, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's something about it. It's great.
It's got
that works
that Lord of the Flies vibe going for
it.
Where like most of the movie you're not like spending time with these kids, but it's got that vibe, and it's like that sort of reoccurring like question that's just really awful to ponder. But it's like when all like social norms and social constructs are like stripped away, like folks just revert to like their most like nasty like base instincts, and like it's sad to see it in Lord of the Flies and in this movie. But like why is that? Is that just straight up human nature? Like, it's just, I don't know, it's fucked up.
Well, it's debatable if that's even true. Like, there's been a lot of people like but like within certain enclaves of isolated peoples, there's all kinds of different ritual and belief and all that sort of thing that keeps things going down a certain track, and that a lot of them do sort of mirror each other in a lot of ways. There's not like a universal standard. I don't believe in that personally, but there is a lot of things that share similarities because of the way human beings react to things like a childbearing woman or whatever, anything that has to do with like the standards of life that people live in. If they're isolated and having to make sense of it themselves, that sense can make no sense to somebody across the world and still make perfect sense. And I think that's kind of like one of the things I like about this movie is it feels like that. It feels like I'm seeing a documentary about an isolated people that have like made the facts of life make sense for them. And it's a really brutal way of understanding it because they live in brutal conditions.
Well, even going off of that, if the boys are, I mean, the implication I feel like that we get later is that, as you said, this has been going on for generations. And I feel like she lies that these aren't strays, that these are the kids, because, you know, she even says this is like not how brothers act or treat each other or whatever. And so this is their community. And so it's a very interesting thing because he was saying he pulled a lot and he was inspired a lot from the idea of nature and even the idea of, you know, he was saying that he like a termite's nest or a hornet's nest or something like that of there's this queen, and it's just it's not the social norm that we consider, but this woman is like lives to be served by her family, to continue the family, to keep it going, and they bring her what she needs, like you would see, you know, in a bee's nest or hornets or something like that. That's where everything in the community serves to protect and serve this one being that guarantees they will continue on. And like, I mean, I have seen, you know,
biological imperative.
Yeah, there's the, I mean, and it's very interesting in a way that he approached this too, because I have seen like the documentaries of sometimes there's some forms of, is it ants or bees or something, where like a male will literally like be one that has wings and he just kind of flies in and he's not from the nest, and the soldiers or whatever have to like accept him in, and then once they do, they essentially pull his wings apart and just like haul him into the inner sanctum of the, you know, of the nest or whatever. Yeah, and he's just a prisoner there to mate and then be eaten or killed once that's done. And like, but that's like a, you know, I mean, but as a form of being inspired by nature, it's interesting to see that fleshed out in a societal way of this is how we function. You know, this is how we live and continue to live, and it works for them. So very interesting.
We have talked about how, like you talked about how it was comparable to, at least for us, Midsummer and The Hills Have Eyes. And aesthetically, I think Hills Have Eyes certainly. But like to Rob's point earlier, like I don't necessarily see it setting wise in Midsummer. I see it in theme, and in a similar way, I see some themes. I was thinking about this today in Misery that feel like they play with some of the stuff. This isolation is there's no shortage of isolation in horror movies, right? But like this is somebody being held captive, somebody who the person holding them captive wants something that only they can provide in this situation. And it's interesting to me thinking about those two because they're just like diametrically opposed in terms of setting. And that I think is kind of interesting. But ultimately they're talking about like holding somebody captive because they have something to offer, and then ultimately they don't need to be there anymore once they've offered that up. And if you remember Misery, spoiler alert for Misery, Annie Wilkes is trying to get him to write this book, not just so that she can read it, but also so she can take over the role of the writer of the Misery novel. She wants his life. Yeah. And so like that's like it's another movie that sort of like plays with the idea of taking life from somebody who you have entrapped and ensnared in this way because they have that to offer. And it seems like this is tied into like the cycles, like the natural, not natural order. I hate that term, but like just like natural processes being made sense of by this, this clique of kids and this generations of people that only have tangential relationship with the outer world and clearly don't really approve of it, except for we do see, I forget her name, the woman in this movie, but see her react really positively to music on the radio in that one video clip that she gets to see over and over again, like Giddy. So I don't know, like there's like, I don't know if there's a desire to break that system or not, because it seems like in every other way there's not. Like, do you guys feel that way about like?
Yeah. I mean, and it could be one of those things that like she doesn't even know it exists, and it doesn't seem like she necessarily has a desire to go seek those things out. It's just this strange curiosity to her that is, oh, that's funny, and it is the one time that they actually kind of like laugh together and stuff. Because even when they end up having sex, it's not, he's very drunk, and it's that moment too, which I love that this flips the ideas kind of on its head. He's been kind of like demasculated, kind of humiliated by the kids and things like that through several times. And he kind of throws this tantrum where he's like, he says something like, I'm not a boy. You can't like command me when to go to bed or whatever.
I'm a man when I wanna.
And she's like, oh yeah, there's other ways to control you. And
then she just kind of like switches gears and still gets what she wants, no problem. Because she does. There's a moment earlier where she kind of like slams the bottle down. She's like, enough, and she kind of like puts her foot down. Then he gets humiliated, and then he starts throwing a tantrum, or whatever. So I think it's very well constructed to see the kind of this guy from another society and the way he thinks about things and the way he thinks about his role in his life and things like that get like broken down systematically from this group that absolutely knows what they're doing for a kind of singular purpose. And it's each time I've watched it. So I ended up watching it 3 times. And it's fun to like kind of see that breakdown when it's like definitely coming of like this next step. I thought they handled that well.
She cut him off from the whiskey because she didn't want him to get that whiskey dick,
Oh yeah,
it ruined their whole plan, right? Something that I found really interesting in this to sort of like touch back on like the isolation aspects of this movie is like, and I could very well be just like projecting this onto the movie. I tried to touch on it a little bit when we were talking to Barnaby during the interview. But so isolation is like obviously a big aspect of this movie, and there seems to be like, I think in present day as well as in this movie, there's sort of like a byproduct happening via isolation that's sort of this like lack of empathy. It seems like empathy is sort of like a becoming a more rare commodity these days. So everybody's like so interconnected via the internet, but like it's almost like a chosen isolation present day, where in this movie it's very much obviously a forced form of isolation, and these boys are like so I don't know, they have absolutely no empathy for sure, but the one amongst them that does try to help because he feels a little bit bad, they string him up and kill him, and they just sort of like they sort of probably quite literally eat the weak, because like they are cannibals in this movie, so I think they they probably literally eat the weak. And there's just sort of like, I think, a correlation happening with this lack of empathy in this movie and what's happening like in present day. And I think when we were talking about the movie with Barnaby, he did touch on like people's sort of like, addictions to electronics and the internet and stuff like this. We didn't quite get into too much of like the lack of empathy, but that's something that I kind of latched onto when I was watching this, that just, it really like resonated with me. Did you guys feel any of that when you were watching it?
I mean, like lack of empathy and what from whom? From
the kids
boys.
to the guy?
Yeah, the boys. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do, like. There's no connection to like he is ultimately cattle to them. Like that,
Sure.
That's how I kind of took it as well. Yeah.
I think they see him as very important within the system that they have built for themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. Like they have no, as far like as individuals, they have no reason to go out of their way to help this woman to like not abuse her in some way, to find her this man and like help her plan come to fruition or what her prerogatives come to fruition, except for the quote unquote good of the society that they've built. That's the other reason that they string up the kid Ludi, something like
Lepis.
Lepis, thank you. So they string up Lepis because he stepped out of line, and that's like the microcosm of society that he's in. Mm-hmm. So I think there's like a lack of empathy, but I don't know that it's more or less than in our world necessarily. I think it is just a microcosm of it. It's like, well, if you step far enough out of line of the natural order, quote unquote, as directed by the leaders of our society, you can have your life completely upended. That's why some people go to live off in isolation themselves. That's why some people choose to do that. And like these boys and this woman, they are clearly choosing that. They have the opportunity to leave. They have a car, and this is not the first car they've had at their disposal. They have access to the outside world if they wanted to pursue it. But that is part of their society, is that they don't engage with that shit unless it is part of their quarry.
Yeah. Just to give a little kind of trivia, I looked up the name of Lepis because I think it's the only kid who's actually named. Yeah. And did they give the woman a name? I can't remember.
Her name is Alina, but I don't know that they ever actually say it in the movie.
Okay, so I didn't look that up, but Lepis has a meaning of researcher, freedom lover, highly sensitive, which all applies in the very limited time that we get from this kid. Yeah. Because he's interested in learning. He is like kind of tempted by the idea that this guy's going to take him away, and he has the empathy or whatever toward the guy. But yeah, I didn't necessarily latch on to the idea of the empathy. I was like tied to this idea of these boys have this role and they serve that role. And even what seemed to me like torture, like I mentioned before, felt like it was this systematic way to break down the way this man sees himself in order to serve the cause. Because one thing to kind of reference to, I think in your plot synopsis, Bob, I think a correction that might be important for the kind of themes going on here is it's a solar eclipse where the moon goes in front of the sun, right? And that's kind of important because I feel like the idea, all of these chapters, they help us like go through time, but they're based on lunar cycles, which is not really a calendar we adhere to much in the States. But even the idea of like starting this film off with like, if we take it as the sun as a masculine, the moon as a feminine, she like is eclipsing him, like she in this society, she is going to like eclipse him as like the important, the top, the head or whatever. And these boys pissing on him, hurting him, breaking him down. Even the guy, because the one kid says like in one of the first interactions, like, I can't wait till I finally get my time with you. Like he knows he has to wait. He can't hurt him. And she even respects the rules. Like she says, we allow people to stay here until the children are born. Like her even handing the baby to him is part of this kind of ritual or these rules that they respect and follow. And then he's killed. So that's kind of what I wasn't necessarily thinking like, oh, they really have a lack of empathy for him. I saw every beat as a way of breaking him down for a specific purpose.
See, I kind of do see both myself, because like there's definitely that. I think that's like You're right, because they can't kill him right away, and they also can't reveal to him what his purpose is to them. That's why she's so quiet. Like that.
Yeah.
They have to slowly, like they have to like pretend to give him an olive branch here and there, and then like keep him there by fear, and then have that fear metastasize in some way to where he is now going to have sex with this woman that he just, like, for all intents and purposes, just met, and is basically keeping him captive or helping to.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like I see that, but I also see like there's giddiness in the idea of hurting him, like that it's not just that they're fulfilling their role, it's that they get to fulfill their role by killing him eventually, and he's excited by that. Not all of them are, but like the ones who keep everybody else in line, the ones who like basically call the shots on the upstairs, like they're excited about it. They've seen this play out. They're finally at the top of the heap, and that is how societies structure themselves. You know, he's now more powerful than his brothers. He's the biggest brother. He's the most, I don't know, able to command their attention and respect. And he is not unwilling to kill one of them if they step out of the line of the society that they've built. Like, that's how, like, all kinds of fucked up societies form and organizations form, is by, you know, producing fear for the individuals within it, so much so that they have to pursue power within the structure that they're in until they get that power, and then they feel entitled to exploit that power for themselves. So I don't know, like, I think there is like sort of, just by existing in this format, in this harsh situation, they are kind of pushed into being non-empathetic in order, as a method of survival, as a method of collective survival.
Yeah, they're
and like
pruning it out of their society. Yeah, it's not really allowed. There's not room for it.
Yeah, there's not room for empathy outside of the maternal home. And that is also to serve an end, a biological end.
There's another like kind of smaller touch that I appreciated in this movie is like they're living off grid. They don't have calendars. They might not even know what year it is, but the way the woman Alina seems to be marking the passage of time is when she gets her period, she like marks like the period blood on the wall. And that is another kind of like powerful moment. Like, she doesn't need a calendar. She doesn't need, like, her body is the clock, and just like her smearing it on the wall. And then when it zooms out and you see like how many marks are on the wall, I then began to wonder, like, are some of those from previous mothers, or like, because like I don't think she could have possibly been there quite that long, because there's so many. But it's, I don't know, it's sort of something interesting to ponder to me.
Boys, I don't know about you, but I'd have a hard time getting down with a bunch of period blood
surrounded by old period blood smeared walls.
But because of the implication. But to your point, Bob, she does reference too. She references the eclipse, and I think that's why it's important to have these chapters that are dictated by the lunar calendar, because again, that still does have this kind of like feminine feel of like, even like tracking periods and things like that based on like lunar is more accurate in that kind of way, I think. But so yeah, it does. But it gives it another aspect of this feminine power. Is everything again within her world, or the way that they see things are, she does have a calendar. It's based on the moon and based on her period and like those kind of things. And so everything in the science or just the understanding of this world, it revolves around her. Again, still, she is the queen, you know, she is the focus point. And even to the point at the end where she says, like, you had no choice.
Yeah.
When he tries to kind of weasel out of it, that is such a kind of like, not a punch in the gut, but kind of like squeezing the heart even more of like, you think that like you, because he's like, I want to be here and help you or whatever. And she's like, I'm in control. Yeah. I've always been in control. They follow me or whatever. It's just, man, that's a powerful moment. Yeah, that was, I liked that, which she's like, you can't do anything. And then even I was wondering, I don't think so, because of everything else that's said throughout the movie. But at the very end, when they put the ladder down, I was wondering, do you guys think that's almost a test? because he goes on this long thing of like, I want to stay here. I want to live with you. I want to help support it. And then she comes out begging for help. There's a problem with the baby. It's not being born. And he's tempted. Leave her there, run to the ladder and escape. And that's essentially what he chooses until the baby is actually born. He goes back to hold it. Do y'all think that was a test or no?
I kind of felt that it was, but I don't know to what end exactly, because I think if he runs, they kill him anyway. So I'm not sure what that alters for them, what that test means to them. But
well, I was wondering, like, if he didn't actually run, because he was seeming like he was running until the baby was born. So, like, had he just stayed to support her 100%, would he have gotten to live? I don't know. I feel like no. My reading is that I don't think he had any chance of survival. Like, even if he had like immediately doted on, like, it was like that's what he offered her, and she's like, "You're not in control." Like, so I just don't see that being possible. It is possible, but like I don't see it. And I think that if he, and that's what leaves me with the question of what does that get them to offer that to him? But it's clear that that was clearly a choice they made to allow him the chance to escape at that moment. So it feels like there should be a purpose to them doing that. Like there's a purpose to just about everything else they've done. And I just don't know what it is. So to that end, I think that adds to like the mysteries that we don't get to know about. And I like that, but also that's one that I would desperately want to get answered more than pretty much most of the other ones, to the point where that one does kind of stick in my craw a little bit. I was going to bring that up as well, because that is one of the things in this movie that I'm like, what is it? What is that? What does that amount to? Yeah.
Like,
Why? There was one more that I wanted to ask all about that was the one that kind of bothered me on my latest watch. I remember like thinking about the first ones, but now that I've seen it a few times, I was like, why? What does it do? Where the kid who was another one of the standouts, who's kind of like in the suit looking thing, the kid with the dark hair, the shorter dark hair. He's the one, man. It was chilling when he's like, "Hey, friend," or "Hey, neighbor," or whatever. What are you doing down there? I thought that was like a really creepy, good performance. But his whole thing of, "What's your favorite color?" And then at the very end, he's like, "You should have said blue." And I was like, "Why? What was that? What would that do?"
I think I don't know what it would ultimately do, but I think that speaks to the empathy. Absence of empathy that Rob's talking about, because he to me is like running the show upstairs, and like I think that's just a little game that they play to make it more fun to fuck with this guy, if I had to guess. And like like these boys, they're respecting the rules, they're following the rules, but that doesn't mean they're not gonna like bend the rules for their own enjoyment. They are still gonna do that because they're like teenage and young adult boys that have been raised in the society where it is an honor, a privilege, and a rite of passage to take the life of a man who has seeded this woman that lives in the canyon. Yeah. So I don't know. I would be happy to like leave it at that myself. Bob?
In addition to that, like if you consider what their ultimate goal is, there's no reason for them to, hit him with a pig's head and make him fall off a cliff, or piss on his face, or slam him into the wall, or all these like
to intimidate him. I think that is but there's ways to do that like are maybe more mild than that. Yeah, just like leaving him there is an option.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, like I don't think them doing any of that contributed to him having sex with Alina at all, which is what he's there to do, Like
I don't know. I kind of do. Well, indirectly, not necessarily the sex, but like I was saying, like breaking him down, showing him his place, taking away his ego or like his agency, because as we see, she doesn't do it until he's like hurt and defeated and kind of broken down and humiliated. That's when she finally kind of strikes and makes her move. It's like the ant after he's got his wings pulled off and like is in the depths of the thing. That's when he's mated. It's not, I don't know. I think it was important to kind of like breaking down his agency, but that could just be my interpretation.
I think he has to be kind of hopeless in order for, like, that's part of the game, is like making him hopeless that he'll ever get out of there, to the point where he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to have sex because what else am I going to do?
Everything else really sucks.
Yeah, she's offering herself to me. This is the only good thing seemingly that has happened to me in the past 9 months or whatever.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that sort of like greases the gears on that is he drank half a fucking bottle of whiskey.
Sure.
Well, they provided that to him too.
Which was constructed, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I think that contributed more to them having sex than like multiple concussions or anything else, you know?
No, I don't think it's the concussions. I think it's the playing with their food is both fun for them and also serves the purpose of making him see just how hopeless the situation is, so that he turns to the bottle instead of trying to climb out or devise a way out.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Something that we hadn't quite touched on too much is like the setting and the importance of the setting of this movie and like how fucking beautiful it is. On this rewatch, like after knowing like how the movie ends, I feel like the canyon, there's a lot of like slow panning shots of this very beautiful canyon, and like some of the textures of the rock almost look like fleshy. Did you guys like get that vibe?
I didn't get that.
Yeah,
I didn't get
fleshy,
that, but the texture, when you said texture, I was like, oh, Bob's on same wavelength as me. What I saw, especially after the interview, I didn't remember thinking this the first time, but it gave it this texture, like you said, and it did look more like a nest to me. Like if you were to take like a bee's nest or a horse and like cut it in half, and it's got that kind of wavy texture, the way they constructed, that's what it was making me think of this time. It could just because he said it in that way, and I was like, oh shit, yeah. But that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, what I noticed was just like the interplay of light on things and the way that the shadows were impacting things. It just creates, because it is a very harsh environment that is inhospitable, and everything in this movie is geared towards pushing him into that house where he's supposed to be. And that's definitely part of it. I didn't think that just accentuates that and the sound design, which I also wanted to call out here. The sound design in this is fucking great. Like it's perfectly sparse. It has just enough like environmental noise to make you feel like you are in an isolated environment. It's not silent, but it is damn close. And every little sound that it echoes and reverberates like fucking crazy. They all matter in the grand scheme of what's happening to this man.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted, since Bob brought up the setting, one thing that ties in with that was I made a note of what I thought was a really good choice. So I guess we do see him climb down the ladder, but the way of this setting is like, it's really cool, but it could have easily, if not handled well, could have easily not felt as intimidating, because you're dealing with height and kind of depth. And I feel like a lot of the shots, it's hard to really tell just how deep in there you are, just like but the setting up the rope scene, and I don't know, something about that long rope and him being like stuck in the middle with the danger of falling and then swinging back and forth, that and then the initial ladder was what really gave this depth to me, to like really brought the fear of, fuck, you're like, there's no chipping away at some stones to get out. Like you're just, this is so high. Yeah.
Several stories down. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought that scene worked really well too, because there were some still shots, and like, you're shooting from like at an angle, and you kind of like see the rocks, and like, people do like even photographs and stuff with the optical illusions of mountains. It's hard sometimes to capture them in that way. And so, yeah, I thought I wanted to give a little praise there, because this time I really felt like, man, that's given this the fear that you need out of this setting. So yeah, that worked well.
Yeah. The setting is I kind of took the canyon as like a womb, is sort of like what it made me think of, with like the fleshy kind of textures, or that's how I perceived them anyways. And also something I definitely did not catch on the first go around is the road that he drives in on at the very beginning of the movie kind of resembles a sperm.
I saw that the second time I watched. I was like, I do not remember that, but yeah,
somebody mentioned that
look like a sperm.
I read that somewhere, and after, like, I haven't seen it since, so I can't compare, but like, yeah, I definitely missed that both times. If that's true, like, I mean, I think any windy road could. No,
it's the second time I saw it. I think so. It looks like a sperm.
All right.
Yeah,
well, I'll have
it
to
does.
rewatch that bit.
Yeah.
Well, to that end, I remember Barnaby was saying, if I'm not mistaken, that the palace that the boys live in, that we didn't get to see, that they didn't get to shoot because of like budgetary constraints. Or
well, he
constraints.
did shoot it, but it didn't end up like he wanted it to.
Is that what it was? Okay,
exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like they ended up like altering things or whatever to cut that out. But like if you are seeing this as a womb, that the road where the man arrives as a sperm, and he mentioned that as that cave that they're living in as being like a birth canal.
Birth canal, yeah.
So like that all makes resonance with the concepts at play here or whatever. And I don't know, like I think that's something that like in a movie that feels this grounded, I'm not looking necessarily for that kind of symbolism necessarily. Like the visual symbolism takes me by surprise, I guess, in this one. As opposed, like, well, at least when it's not like very blatant, like the period blood on the wall or the interstitials with the plate or whatever. Those bits are like, oh, this is clearly like, but like anything that's kind of like hidden like that, I just wasn't really like looking for in the same way. So it's interesting to know that there's like a little bit of extra if you go digging.
Well, it's interesting too, because one thought that I had too, especially like second or third watch, was because of the drawings on the wall, then I was getting this like snake pit idea, which is one of the things it doesn't necessarily bother me I am curious. I'm like, why is it a snake? Because especially after the interview, all the other visuals that I was getting a lot of the time, like there's this pretty cool shot where the sun's going down. It's pretty dark. So it's like they're dark silhouettes and they're marching on the hill, and they kind of look like ants, marching. And you have this queen and these soldiers bringing her things and providing for her. And so everything else seems to kind of point to this like insects, with the queen at the top. And I was just like, what's up with the snake? What is the snake with the shedding of the skin? And I don't know. I was just so curious about it.
I mean, if you want to get, I think that you could write that off to be like just another of many symbols in this movie that are just geared towards natural processes and the passage of time, like just, the shedding of skin, the renewal, all that sort of thing. It could be as basic as that. I wasn't necessarily thinking about it in terms of insects either, those, but like that does make more of a sense in terms of like, I don't know how snakes live necessarily, so I guess I could be talking about out of my ass, but like a colony of ants is a very clear one, like metaphor that you can put onto this movie, and or like a hive of bees or whatever else with one central like matriarchal leadership.
I don't think snakes live that way.
I don't think so. But maybe there's some other way that they live that makes some kind of sense.
I'm no animalologist over here.
Animalologist.
The snake thing, I took it
English, Doc. We ain't scientists.
There's probably a very specific thing that we just don't know about. But the way I took it was like, sort of more of like they're a snake in the grass, sort of like a hidden or unforeseen sort of threat, in that she very much is, because she's very like quiet, keeps to herself, like unassuming at the beginning of the movie, but it turns out like she's pulling the strings. She's the boss. Like you just don't know it yet.
However,
that's how
I'm sorry, continue. Yeah. However, like to that end, I kind of had this thought as we were talking, like I was saying how like if you step out of line in the society, then the boys up top can kill you, and that makes kind of sense. But I forgot, honestly, I was thinking about this. I forgot that she specifically takes issue with that and screams at them about it. So like maybe her powers have a limit. Certainly with them, it seems like they have a limit. And so I don't know. Like I don't know what that says exactly. I'm just kind of like circling it right in a second.
I was thinking about the aspect of what if this dude flipped on her and threatened her, then the whole they're kind of throwing him in with the queen, and if he doesn't play it like they want, then
well, that's why,
because he goes through, he finds a pickaxe or whatever, and maybe she has more power than we realize, showing the snake, because there is the moment, which I thought was another really cool scene, where she does get mad at the boys, and she's got this like double voice. Calling out this layered voice, and that was really cool to kind of show maybe something else is going on, but ultimately she hits him with a piece of wood. So I'm like, what happens if this dude takes this pickaxe and says, let me the fuck out of here, or she's getting an axe to the throat?
Yeah,
what are they gonna do?
See, that's the thing, is I think that shit, like, that's part of the problem. That's why it's so important for them not to let on that she is that they're related in some way other than, like, it's important for her to seem as terrorized as he feels by them.
That is.
They need to be the in group, and the kids need to be the out group that is terrorizing them. If that doesn't happen, then he has leverage. He has a ransom, basically. He can hold.
Yeah.
So,
that's fair. I think she gets so mad at the end because, like, that is, I assume, one of her children that has been killed.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
There's also a very brief moment where one of the kids up top, he doesn't have a shirt on, and he turns around, and you see he's got the same large birthmark on his back that his mother has.
Yeah.
So, like,
I didn't catch that.
I don't think birthmarks are hereditary necessarily, but, like, you know, they're related, obviously. Like, he is her son, and probably several of them are, I would think. But
well, I was curious about that, because it does look like a birthmark, but the wound on the kid that's hanging also looked to be in a similar shape, and I was like, did they remove his skin to say, like, you're not a part of the family anymore, or was is that like some kind of branding wound or something? I don't know. But I did notice the shape, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Maybe I'm assuming it's a birthmark. Maybe it is more of a brand. Yeah, that could be. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a scarlet letter, maybe. Yeah, that would be fucking nuts. I kind of wish that if that were true, we could have seen it with a little more fidelity, so that we could be, so that I could have been in on that. And be like, oh, what's this carving that they've done? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, that ambiguity is there to keep the mystery alive, even though we know from the beginning what ultimately will happen is that somebody's like this woman who's he's in this hole with this woman, and he's not able to leave. The movie's called The Seeding. Oh, like, it doesn't take very much to put that together. What's that somebody's going to get impregnated, but like the circumstances around that, like, this is why I like kind of took issue with like the mystery comments that I saw or whatever. Like, oh, the mystery's all resolved right away or whatever. It's like, I mean, have you never watched a historical film or anything? Like I kind of feel like any World War II movie that ends with D-Day or like ends with like, or
that's
what
fair.
is it, VA Day or whatever. Like, you know how that's going to end.
Day.
What is that?
Day.
Not
Free tomato juice for everyone.
Fuck, I can't remember the names of the days now.
We're making
like anything that's like depicting history. You know how that ends too. It's not, but it's not the history itself. It's the circumstances that you watch play out.
Yeah.
Now that's fair, because I was about to play devil's advocate. It's not something that bothered me, but just to kind of like give a perspective. Also, like, well, I'll get into that later. But so I could see, the only thing that I would say as a pairing for this, I think it's cool, but the poster with the title, the seating plus the poster that we get is really cool design, but could be very spoilery, because I mean, the whole idea is like this guy is going to end up dead, and the whole like poster is him in the ground as a skeleton with the flower coming out. But now you kind of just
really badass though.
It is really badass, but also, so I was just going to use that to play devil's advocate. It's not how I feel, but then Randy kind of just like shut on that. So, you know,
I don't know. Like, I just think, I think that's like, that's the premise of the movie to me. That's not the mystery of the movie. It's the premise that like,
that's fair,
even from the outset of the word, the seeding, like, unless you're going in full blind and you need to figure it out as you go, like just having seen that poster or whatever, you don't necessarily know that's him. You don't know the circumstances of that. You don't know if there's actually if there's flowers involved in this story. We don't know any of that.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's like every movie poster that's effective, or most of them, it's just a way of poetically showing the themes of the film, or something from the film, in this case, the themes. in some poetic fashion. That's really all it is, and that's fine with me. It doesn't, again, like, it doesn't spoil it for me to know that she's trying to seduce him. I knew that pretty early in the movie, pretty quickly, and I still got to watch the journey and got to sort of piece together the why, like how these pieces interlock and all that stuff. And that's what's interesting to me, is really diving into the nitty gritty of the microcosms as much as we're allowed, and then being left with questions of how they, like, at the end, that you still don't get to know exactly how they interlock.
We need to land that plane. Actually, this is a runaway train there, boys. If you guys
have a lot to discuss,
there is a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. If you guys do have anything else you want to mention, of course, feel free. Out of 5, Randy, you were kind of winding into your final thoughts, anyways. Why don't you just continue on? How do you feel out of 5?
I feel pretty good about this. We kind of were pretty glowing with this movie overall. I think, like, I told Barnaby outright in our interview that I was going to be a biased party because he's a lovely guy. And that's all true. But in an effort to sort of like be at least moderately objective, some of the things that sort of like stuck in my craw a little bit were what I mentioned before, like not really knowing necessarily a few things that I kind of wish that I had known, or not focusing in on a couple of things that would have clued me in of the symbolism that I missed, or that, I don't know. It could be that I'm just dense. That seems very likely, actually. But I don't know. I feel like I got a lot out of this movie even without those things. And that to me feels like famously the thing that I like most about these kinds of movies, which is it gives me more to chew on. It gives me more to think about. We've talked about this for a while, and we could probably keep talking about it for another hour. And we talked about it with Barnaby. And we talked about it privately. So that's what I like in a kind of thinky horror movie. A movie that's built on tension and all those things. So like, I don't know. I'm of two minds about even my complaints about this movie. I think we could have done with a little bit more of the boys, even if it is from a distance still. I think that is effective, but I kind of wish that I had seen like a little more of how they interact with each other, because we only got like kind of little hints of that, I feel like. I don't know. I think that the performances were mostly good. I don't have really anybody to point out that, or anything to point out that felt like hollow or out of place. I think that the like maybe dream sequence, that was maybe a little on the overly ambiguous side for me, because I kind of like, I didn't notice like the fucking necklace of penises. Jesus Christ, I didn't notice that. That would have, to me, alleviated one of my other problems that I had, or one of the things that kind of stuck out to me is like, this movie starts and opens with an infant eating a finger. And that is like the most gruesome thing that happens in the whole movie, pretty much. I kind of felt like a little bit shortchanged in terms of gore, and I'm not a gore hound, really. So like, I kind of want, there is some gore in this. There is some like brutal shit that happens, but like that is by far that, and like stringing up, I can't remember this fucking kid's name. Lapis. Those are like the two like fucking brutal moments, like brutal things that are in this movie are like visually brutal things. And I just feel like there could have been just a little bit more of that. I understand that there's kind of a push and pull, because you need it to be, you don't want this to turn into the Outwaters. You know what I mean? You want this to still be like something where this guy can let his guard down and then be used in the way that he's being intended to be used. But still, I was like, the opening with that shot to me signals a gorier movie than we ultimately got. And that was a little bit of a drag for me. With those things out of the way, I don't have a lot of other complaints that I can think of. And I would really just kind of be, book reporting it here if I tried to. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4 out of 5. I want to give this a little bit more time to grow in my brain and like think about other movies that it compares to. I've heard, I've heard much more dire responses to this movie than that, but I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it more than once. That's like, it's beautiful to look at. It's beautiful to listen to. It's fucked up, and it's got enough to chew on conceptually for me that it doesn't feel shallow at all. And I don't have a big problem with the idea of the mystery being the premise instead of like we talked about earlier, basically. So to me, it's a 4 out of 5.
Right on. Solid 4 out of 5 from Ray and Deezy. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I would say that the seeding does a really good job of planting fear in the barren soil of the mind.
Here we go. Wow. That's on the back of the
barren
box.
soil of the mind. Straight Chilling Podcast.
It is not in the file.
Soju, straight chilling podcast.
Soju.
But
you want to be credited that way? I don't want to be credited as Randu, I'll tell you.
Randeezy.
Oh,
yeah. How about Randeezy? Rand? Would that be okay? But no, yeah, I really enjoyed this film. Even, it's so I do like Randy said, I do want to be objective in some ways, but also to mention a couple things that I didn't as far as praises. I mentioned this. I generally don't like desert films most of the time, just because it's not like, I don't know, something about the texture and the setting and the heat and stuff like that just feels and looks very unpleasant most of the time. So I was very impressed with that and aware, even the first time I watched it, I was like, wow, this setting looks beautiful. It's utilized in a very interesting way, and it's not bothering me. And it's even like intriguing and working really well as a positive for me, which was very surprising and shocking because that's not typically how it goes. Some of the notes that I took, the ending scene we didn't really talk about. I thought that was just super effective. Just he's not even buried or anything. He's just there. He's just left there, and his skeleton is like rotting and everything. So that was effective. What else? There's just some baller quotes. She drops some awesome lines. In the desert, nothing is wasted. Right before he's,
man,
that's
a good one.
Another one. She's just tearing him down. This dude, he just gets torn down, and like it works so well though. But she says, "Seeds blow in with the wind." Which is another cool tie into nature. Again, you never had any choice. The dream sequence, kind of touching on maybe what I would have liked to see a little bit more from this, is the dream sequence worked really well for me because it was this kind of like psychological horror of this seeming son, suckling at his mother's milky teat and I didn't even see the necklace of dicks, which is crazy. So another thing that was kind of different about that scene too is you had a lot more of the kids there. There are some of the smaller ones, maybe the one we see at the beginning. And I kind of wish that we had, kind of like what Randy said, I wish we had gotten a couple more scenes, not a lot, of the kids. If he could have been able to pull off that shot of where they stay and how disgusting and primal it is, I feel like that would have been really great and effective. I completely understand based on limitations and budgets and stuff, there's only so much you can do. And I respect cutting something that doesn't look great, because there was another scene, actually, to be fair and objective like Randy, there was one scene with the kids that I felt wasn't up to par with like kind of the rest of the movie. And it was one where he does a zoom in of their face and they're kind of doing their chant, which I thought the chant and again, the sound design and everything like that worked really well, but it had like the flames over their face. This kind of like, I don't know. That was the only one where I was like, they kind of work better at a distance to me when I'm like not right in their face, and the flames didn't really do much for me. But then he followed it up with the dream sequence or possible dream, whatever, of that worked really well. So I was like, I wish we could have maybe got a couple more of those and really maybe push that better. But yeah, that was the only scene that stood out to me where I was like, that's the only one that doesn't seem up to par, I guess. There's some smaller things too. I don't know if they're intentional or not, but like something about the way she eats really bothers me. There's something about it that seems unsettling, that just doesn't sit well. I like the idea of them calling in a palace, and even though he couldn't shoot, they're kind of teasing that. I thought that was pretty effective. Also too, the way the kids dress, and he kind of mentioned this, there's aspects of this film where I just said, this is a kind of movie where I love thinking about the process. Somebody going out and picking those clothes and trying them on these kids. And like I said, the one that was most effective to me was the kid up on the hill where he's got these chains on and this like tattered suit, and he just looks really, I don't know. That one to me, that kid specifically, his just like outline and the clothes he was wearing and his performance kind of like really stood out to me.
I was wondering, like, not to interrupt, but like, I was wondering if there was some direct, like, Peter Pan and the Lost Boys inversion happening here.
I got
the silhouette of those kids, like the kid with the top hat, like that's distinctly Peter Pan to me. But like, obviously actually in that book, I mean, Wendy, who goes to Neverland, does kind of become the center of the Lost Boys universe for the time that she's there.
She does, but she's not necessarily they don't respect her as much as I think
it's
they
not.
respect us.
Well, they treat her like a mother, though.
She does wear a dickless, though, famously.
Oh yeah.
What? Yeah,
she does.
Yes.
Oh, this is a lovely.
But you're right. They do refer to her as mother. We need a mother, and they get that's a good call for sure. And maybe like not necessarily a negative for me, but it was just a thought that I had was what I brought up earlier is the boys. I wrote the boys play by the rules. They respect the woman and they work to serve her. What happens if he threatens her well-being? And maybe she's more powerful than we see. She gets that double voice. We have these paintings on the wall. We don't know. I like the teases of like the first mother, and you don't know how long this is going on, and this second language and this chant that they do. It's all very intriguing and very interesting. I'm going to echo Randy and say I'm going to give this a 4 as well, which I think was my initial score that I gave like right after Buffon was done. So I kind of want to stick with that, even though I agree with Randy. It's as much shit as I give Chris Stuckman or whatever. It's tough when you're like interviewing people and you already like it anyways. But I think 4 is fair.
It's not easy. Yeah. I also want oh man. There was something you said. No, I lost it. I might come back to it later. Sorry.
Okay.
Bob.
Right in the middle of Bob's review.
Okay.
Make sure you tell us right
I'm
in the
gonna
middle
do
of
that.
Bob's review.
Just plow right.
Shut up for a second, Bob. I got this.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, one more thing
I know
though
what it
is
was.
I thought the thrills that blossom here, they really blossom into sheer terror.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad!
Some people might say the seeding drags you into the deep end of your worst nightmares and holds you beneath the surface for 100 minutes. Some might say that. Some might print that on a box. I don't know.
Some might.
This movie, we definitely praised this movie at length. There's a couple little things that did bother me. I don't think we touched on. When they actually do have the sex scene, the way it's shot is a little like odd. It's sort of like blurry and like it's got almost like a some sort of like time delayed filter on the movement. So
I thought the slow motion seemed kind of weird. That's right. Yeah, I did
was
kind of forget
indicative
about that.
of his mental state. Like
that's fair, and that is fair. Yeah, I didn't love how it looked, but that is fair. I'm sure it was chosen with a purpose such as that. Also, towards the end, when the woman gets really upset and starts yelling at the other kids, and she gets that sort of like double voice happening, it sounds cool. Maybe it's my ears, but like I couldn't understand the vast majority of what she was saying.
You lame brains!
I thought she was speaking in the second language, at least part of the time.
Maybe
I think it was like a multiple language situation, like a hybrid language.
I wanted to get more. It felt like a really important moment to me, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like I can't parse out exactly what she's saying. But I don't know. I wanted to.
So, I kind of I feel like that might have been something that was expounded in the palace with the boys where they're having because like that's like a fucking Clockwork Orange thing, man, where it's just the Droogies have their own way of talking and you don't necessarily know what they're saying, but you have to piece it together with the bits of language you do know.
Yeah. I this is totally a cannibal movie, but like I wanted more cannibalism. I definitely did. Even when we were interviewing Barnaby Clay, we talked a little bit about Texas Chainsaw and how that was somewhat of an inspiration, which I just want a little bit more of that. But those are really like my only complaints. The vast majority of I think what Barnaby was trying to do, I think he did very successfully. The performances are solid. Something that we didn't really get into. I really fucking liked the title card and also like the interstitial like chapter cards that come in. They look like really badass. I think they do a good job at like setting the tone of what's to come after.
They look like really badass.
They look like really
back
badass.
of the box quote.
Put it on there.
There you go.
Yeah, I think all the other positives we have harped on, honestly, so I won't repeat them. I'm going to come in just a touch below y'all with a 3.5 out of 5 on the seating. That's going to put our aggregate at a 3.8. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and
Real quick, Bob.
Oh my God. See what the critics and users have to say about the seating.
All right.
Certified.
But before we continue on, the one other thing I was going to say as a negative is that
fuck Bob.
I'm actually a little surprised that Juice didn't bring this up, because this seems like very much his axe that he always grinds, which is that I felt like Wyndham as a character definitely made some real boneheaded decisions and was slow on the uptake.
That's fair.
And was not making the decisions I personally would have made. And normally that's a ding for you, and it can be for me as well. And so it kind of is a little bit.
The only one time I consider, I kind of just considered him as just a character. The only one time I thought that it was pushing its luck a little bit was when he digs up a ring and some keys and doesn't really show too much concern about it. That was it.
He's also like strikes me as
That's
just like
definitely a big one.
Maybe not the sharpest tool.
That's a lot of the things that he did. I was kind of like, I feel like he feels kind of like a little spoiled or something. I don't know. He just feels like he's not considering these things often. He's not looking for danger. He's not. I don't know. So that was the only time that it kind of struck me. Otherwise, I just chalked it up to him as a character. Yeah.
Anyway, hey,
Rotten Tomatoes.
This is the Rotten Tomatoes segment, ladies and gentlemen, in which I'm going to have these gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive scores are for the seeding in both the critics and users category on RottenTomatoes.com. We're going to start, as we always do, with the critical reviews. There are only 28. Very fresh movie, kind of low profile, I guess. I'm a little surprised because of its festival run, but 28 reviews to count.
Well, if we were approved on Rotten Tomatoes, we'd be on there, you know?
We are 1 5-star review away on iTunes.
Barnaby, if you're listening, go on iTunes, give us a 5-star so we can put.
You scratch our back, we scratch yours. This is a real good situation for everybody.
The funny thing about my back is it's. Continue.
Are you super batting on this fucking podcast right now? God damn.
Have you heard of our podcast?
So we're going to start with Bob tonight. Out of those 28 critic reviews, what do you think the aggregate positive score or aggregate of positive scores would be out of 100%, 0 to 100?
Out of 100%. I'll do pretty much what we rated it. 75.
75%. Juice, how about you?
Yeah, that's a good guess. I'll just go a scotch higher toward my personal score and give it an 80.
All right, an 80 from Juice and a 75 from Bob. Now, gentlemen, I want you to reflect in the mirror and then reflect on the Chris Stuckman website, YouTube channel, as I read to you. The aggregate score, the aggregate of positive scores is 57%. Bob is going to take this one.
Oh, no.
Criminally low, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a little low.
What?
A little low.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty low.
What the fuck?
That's an extremely low amount of reviews, and I'm going to just chalk it up to that. But there's some pretty, there's some higher profile reviewers in the mix here, as they come.
We did read one that was what was it, Bloody Disgusting or something, and we just completely did not agree with the entire review.
Completely dissed it. The diss track's coming out tomorrow.
You bloody disgusting.
I mean, that's a lot. Opinions are what they are, you know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We got to play the game now, boys. We're about to be in the big show. RottenTomatoes.com.
Well, it's the big show.
After they've famously been outed for people just paying for reviews and shit.
Right, finally, it's our turn to get paid.
Hey, me, Soju. And I'll say things like this. The desert hides more than sand and sun in the seeding.
There we go. So yeah, Bob's going to take that one by a margin of, oh God, what is it? Like almost 20.
Yeah. Whoa. Oof.
Almost 20 percentage points off. So goddamn. Now let's move over to the, well, actually, I'm sorry. There is no aggregate audience score because there are fewer than 50 ratings on the audience rating, which makes sense, I guess, because it's a fairly new movie and again, kind of low profile in the overall scheme of things. So that's unfortunate. There's no critic consensus either, still too low. So I guess we're just going to jump to the negative reviews and see if any of them are funny. Spoiler alert, I've already dug through these and most of them are just like annoying to me.
Cool.
So here's one. Clay's surreal drama isn't stillborn as much as it's emotionally uninflected and monotonous. I can you hear the farts? Can you hear the fart sounds echoing through the speaker as I say that?
Get it. Now the only I was thinking now, okay, so to be fair, Ty West, I love in the House of the Devil or whatever. And that was one that was popping up to me because I've always been like, I really like House of the Devil. And then there's a lot of people like, oh, I fucking hate House of the Devil. So, I was like, okay, I could see people because it's got a slower pace, I guess. But as someone that doesn't bother, it doesn't bother me at all. So
that has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well,
and 4 times the reviews counted. It's certified fresh. And I don't know, man, like I that's from the critics too. I would expect that maybe from the users because users are a little bit more hot and cold. They're not always necessarily media literate at all. But from the critics, I expected a little more than this, honestly. Like some of these reviews, and here's the thing though, it does show like some of these people give like a numerical score and it does show some of that. And even the negative reviews are kind of like, a lot of them are kind of like down the middle, so more than they are outright negative. So I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
take that for
see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes largely doesn't fucking matter anyways, but
no, it doesn't.
I guess
that's why we're so desperate to be on it.
Well, I guess even if you gave it a 3 out of 5, like if a bunch of people gave it a 3 out of 5,
a few,
and then like there was 2 or 3 that gave it a 2.5 or 2, then that would drop it. Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of 1.5 out of 4. There's some 2s out of 5. Those are a lot of them don't have a numerical score though, so we just won't know. We can't quantify. It makes you wonder,
like,
way.
have these people seen a bad movie? Do they know how bad movies?
I know. Well, yeah, man, I know, Especially even, I mean, I don't know. When I first saw this, I didn't even necessarily think like independent movie or anything.
We didn't know anything about it.
I didn't know anything about it. I was just really impressed by it. And not only that, honestly, one of our friends over at from Overlook, what's
Scariest
Ted
Things?
Gagan?
Yeah. Scariest Things. He was at Beef on 2 and he sent me an email and he was like, hey man, are you at the festival? I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, did you see the seating? I was like, yeah, I did. And he thought it was awesome too. He like independently, he just like happened to send me a text and I was like, yeah, it was awesome. So I don't know.
I feel like this is a movie that's just kind of like primed for a little bit of a slow build into having its people. You know what I mean?
Could be. Yeah. I would say like beware the seeds of cruelty sown in the desert sands of the seeding.
Oh no, not again.
That's what you'd say, huh?
Yeah, that's what I'd say personally.
Dude,
Soju from Straight on the Podcast. That's
a quote on the box and I buy it. I'm gonna cross right through it.
We should have like I really hope that we all get quotes on the box. We're the only 3 quotes on the box.
Please,
it's all dependent on our.
But it's all got to say Bob, Soju, and Randeezy though. That's what it's got to say.
Man. That's how the game is played.
Just nonsense. Okay.
You know what? From now, that's my goal for 2024. I'm getting on a box. Every new movie we cover, that's my goal. I promise.
Even the Ghostbusters on Ice movie.
Even that one. Yeah.
A rip roaring good time.
This movie on Ice. So's the original cast.
ChatGPT all of your box responses though. Like, do not think of them yourself.
Wow, we'll see.
Make them as base as possible.
I do have some integrity.
But not much.
It depends.
Spider-Man is swinging into theaters. Yeah, that's it for the Rotten Tomatoes segment. Let's move the fuck
Barnaby
on.
Clay is swinging into theaters.
The seating is blooming in the theaters.
That's my favorite fucking movie review trope. Like my buddies over on a different Discord, they've been making those jokes and pointing out where authors do that for like 5 years, just like collecting like every fucking movie. Indiana Jones is swinging into theaters, and it's not just swinging; it's anything. It's great.
The seeding has yielded one bountiful harvest.
The seeding is jizzing into theaters this weekend.
That's going on the box for sure.
That's in the box.
Hope you got that dry cleaner on speed dial, because this movie is messy. Randy, is that it?
That's it.
Rotten Tomatoes? Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right, boys. This is, obviously a brand new movie. There really wasn't any trivia that I could find for it. However, Barnaby obviously does offer up some pretty interesting tidbits during our interview. Definitely check that out. We dropped that last week. I did look up the meanings of all the different phases of the moons that were used in the interstitial title cards throughout the course of the movie, because I didn't know what the fuck they meant. So I do have that we can run through for some trivia. So the first one that pops up says Sturgeon Moon. And that is the August full moon, which is traditionally known as the Sturgeon Moon because of the abundance of that type of fish in the Great Lakes in August. Apparently that was coined hundreds of years ago. So I don't know if the sturgeon fish are still in abundance, but...
Or we just killed them all.
They're probably overfished, yeah.
Let's just go ahead and assume they're not. I think that's
they're gone. They're extinct.
Yeah.
We ate them all. That's it. The next one up is the Harvest Moon, which I feel like everybody's heard of the Harvest Moon.
Oh, yeah. Neil Young's great.
It's the full moon that happens closest to the autumnal equinox, which is, the start of fall. And for several nights in a row, a large full moon rises shortly after sunset, long before electricity farmers would take advantage of the bright moonlight when it was time to harvest their crops. Thus the name of the Harvest Moon.
All right.
The Gold Moon. This one is another one I'd never heard of before.
I wrote a note that said, did that say cold moon or gold moon because of the font?
Yeah, it's that script is kind of a little tough.
Yeah, it is. It says gold. And when I pulled this up, I kept coming across Yellow Moon, but not much Gold Moon. I couldn't really find a whole lot about this other than it's just something that symbolizes generally an abundance of crops and just general prosperity. I couldn't really find a whole lot of information.
Are you 100% sure it's not Cold Moon? Because there's a definition for that.
Oh, it's fucking A. What is that?
Okay.
I thought it said gold.
Yeah.
Okay.
On timeanddate.com, the authority on these matters, it says cold moon is December's full moon. In December, when winter sets in the northern hemisphere, the full moon is called the cold moon.
Nice.
It's the first full moon after the winter solstice, when temperatures are normally freezing in the northern hemisphere.
That font fucked me up then. Good save, boys. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to that gold moon, though.
Gold
Give me some of that. It's gold from all the cheese, as we know.
The Blue Moon is the next one, which is, again, something I'm sure we've all heard of. So the Blue Moon is the moon technically takes 29 and a half days to complete its full cycle, which means just 354 days to complete the full 12 lunar cycle. So every 2.5 years, there is a bonus 13th full moon, which is observed in one calendar year. And that 13th full moon is the Blue Moon.
Cool.
That's it.
All right.
I didn't really know why we call it the blue moon, so that's cool.
It's a bonus moon. And then finally, the last one is the Beaver Moon, which is November's full moon.
I can smell a beaver from 30 miles away.
Yeah, November's full moon. It arises from the fact that these animals have gathered sufficient food stores and begun to take shelter in their lodges at this time of year.
So like hibernation moon kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Interesting.
There you go.
I feel more in tune with nature now.
We are one with nature here at Straight Chilling.
On our Zoom call.
Yes. In my basement.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for trivia. Let's jump into our Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' excluse. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviancy, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, do you think that there is a Cooter in the seating?
Yes.
I think there's an argument to be made. Bob, where were you going to go with it? Were you going to go collective or were you going to go individual?
I was going to go collective, like the whole clan, I think. Honestly.
I think there's a case to be made for individual.
Sure.
But collective is okay. But so I was just looking this up. Some of these people are assigned names, even though I don't think they're spoken. Maybe they are, and it's just hard to understand. But so the one boy who's got the long hair who ends up killing our main character, he is labeled as Arvo, ARVO, and I think he probably hits enough on his own to be labeled. So what I would say is sexual deviancy, 1, because he is the one who pees on the guy, and also he does the weird thing with the brother where he's talking about like his skin being soft and cold and stroking it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So sexual deviancy, check. Smug arrogance, because the whole time he's the one who's like, I'm gonna get you when the time comes, and I don't know, just kind of like throwing out lines like that. He's definitely got some smug arrogance. Manipulation. Now this is harder because this is more of like a collective thing. They're all fucking with him, and I don't know if you necessarily see this individual play a part in it, but he's a part of it. So I mean, I would say manipulation probably for him. So that
I think they all get
3.
that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
He gets 3. You could say looking attire because all of their clothes are wonky and just mismatched and crazy. So that would probably hit. But not really patheticness, I guess, because he's pretty much like in control of everything. So 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that a lot of that can be applied collectively, though. And that's the thing is like, if you're going to go individual, I think there's a case to be made for, and I cannot remember her fucking name. Alina, actually, looking at Alina, because like the manipulation's off the charts there. Like she's very, very much like keeping mum her true purpose and all that.
Sexual deviance.
Oh, Bob, I thought there was a problem with the recording.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, sexual deviance. Yes. Using somebody for their seed is generally frowned upon.
Hunting for dick.
Yeah. Thank you for the clean bump.
Welcome.
Yeah. So sexual deviancy, manipulation, smug arrogance. I don't know if we really see that. It's almost like more dutiful in her case.
Yeah.
Looking attire, not really. Patheticness, again, not really. So, okay, yeah. So that definitely hits lower on the scale, having gamed it out there.
Yeah,
I think we put them all together, though.
I think we can put them all together because they all have the same goal in mind, and they all, I think, hit at least 3. You know?
I mean, they all come pretty close, and like it's like just manipulation alone, like that all of this is set up to operate in such a way to entrap people and impregnate this woman to keep the society going. Like that's a high level of coordination
also,
for manipulation for a bunch of kids.
I guess I don't know exactly where to lump this in, but like they're cannibals. That's got to land somewhere. Like, I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't know where.
Patheticness, maybe. I don't know.
It's very interesting because I was looking. They all have individual names, and I'm sure that they have some special meaning. So Corvus, Orion, Arvo, Vela. Like, I feel like those got to be some kind of special meaning. So that's pretty cool, though. I will say, as just like kind of a fun little thing, I was looking up at IMDb to get all their names, and they all together went to Tribeca and like are taking pictures, you know, in front of them. And it just like looks, they look close. It just looks like fun. So,
well, yeah, like Barnaby was saying, they kind of formed their own little group just in the filming of this movie, which is nice.
And now they live in the desert and they eat people.
Yeah.
you gotta love a shoot that leaves people friends at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not always the case.
Yeah, I think that kind of lends itself to like low budget filmmaking. Like it's a labor of love. Everybody comes together and like, you know, they share the same vision and like put in a little extra effort because it's a labor of love.
In the best cases, yeah.
And that's true. Not in every case, but
yeah.
I think we got them, all of them.
I think
Got them, boys.
Round them up.
Lock them up.
Yeah.
Put them in a dog kennel. We got them.
God damn.
The seating is full of cooters.
Soju, Straight Killing Podcast.
That's a great box quote.
Yeah, that's gonna move some units for you.
I know.
Yeah,
I
man.
think so. I think that's the one you want.
Cooter.
The sales have shot up 35% since we put that quote on there. People love a cooter-filled movie. The reviews are very angry that there's no pornography in this, but whatever.
Now with 69% more cooter.
Well, so he could have got the half star for the Yabos, but we got the dong swinging, so I had to cut back there.
Yeah.
So
The dismembered dong swinging, apparently.
And like 8 dismembered dongs.
Which I didn't see, to be fair, but
we got not just a dong, but a pissing dong.
I'm legit going to go back and get a screenshot for Randy with the sperm road. And also, I want to check out that dong necklace.
Sperm Road. That's the Silk Road for people trying to get pregnant.
It's the super secret track on Mario Kart 64 sperm road.
There you go.
Jesus Christ. God damn.
I'm
more of a Golden Showers Road kind of guy.
Nice bump there, Randy.
Yep. You know.
All you got to do is just go back and cut that out for yourself.
Get it yourself and play it often.
That's all you got to do.
All I got to do is fuck myself, and I'll be fucked.
God damn. All right, boys. Let's go ahead and let our hair down, kick our feet up, talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what you been watching?
Yeah, my list is not going to seem so different from last week. Still kind of slowly picking away at Fargo season 1. It was a kind of a crazy week, so we didn't get very far. I think we've got like one more episode under our belt. Still plugging away at Kentucky Route Zero. I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about that game overall, but it is very unique and it's definitely artsy. So go for that if that's what you like, I suppose. I finally watched The Apology. I gotta look up.
Oh yeah, the Christmas one.
Yeah, which I didn't actually realize or remember, I guess, was a Christmas film, but Beck picked it out. I was like, oh, maybe this one will be good. So we checked it out. It's not bad. It's kind of pulpy. It's kind of pulpy, but like Anna Gunn and Janine Garofalo are both in it. And I think they do a pretty good job. Like Anna Gunn is like a proven talent, obviously, and Janine playing in a non-comedic role. I just haven't seen that very much. She did a reasonably good job. She was kind of not the straight man of the two. And she's not in it all that much, but I don't know. There's I think it was like a fun watch. I don't know that it's much of a repeater. It's just kind of like it's like pulp novel stuff to me, which has its place. It's just not something I necessarily gravitate towards. The Christmassiness though was pretty on point. I thought it looked pretty Christmassy as far as our range of quote unquote Christmas movies goes, where the presence of a fir tree of any kind qualifies it as a Christmas film.
Just a little bit of snow on the ground.
Or they actually say in the film, it's Christmas.
Oh yeah, they say that in a movie that has nothing to do with Christmas, therefore Christmas film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Royal Rumble is the last thing on my list. I went over to a friend's place and watched the Royal Rumble last night. This is all very much in the wake of some very disturbing shit coming out.
Oh, Royal Rumble. I thought you meant like the film Royal Rumble. I was like,
no. Okay, sorry, I should be clear. I watched the WWE event last night.
Gotcha.
And had a great time watching it. I always really like the Royal Rumble is just so fun to get into. And I was watching it with a buddy of mine who's very, very immersed in wrestling, and one of his friends that is also, and they were annotating it a little bit to myself, who's like kind of a lapsed fan of wrestling, very lapsed fan of wrestling, and then a bunch of people that are very, very not in the wrestling world. So it was just kind of fun to see like people's reactions from different ends of the spectrum of interest to begin with. But it was a lot of fun, man. I don't know. I really like the ladies rumble. I like 2 years in a row I've enjoyed that more. not knowing a lot of the male characters now kind of leaves them on pretty level playing fields for me. So I'm like but kind of being introduced to these characters in both cases all the way through. For those who don't know, it's like a 30-man fucking wrestling match, and there's a male and a female edition of that every year nowadays. And I don't know, the women were more high flying to me. They were it was more fun. Yeah, that's really about it. I don't have anything else worthy of note here. So how about you, Juice? What do you got on your what you've been watching list?
Well, the first one I want to mention is one that was recommended to me by Dan on our episode of The Conversation, and it was a movie called Kill List, which is a British horror film, which was fucking cool. It came out in 2011, and I would echo that recommendation now because it was it's weirdly enough, it was directed by the same guy who I think last year directed The Meg Deuce, which I heard was hot garbage. But this was like one of his first films. I don't think his second film maybe, but it's a lot more low budget. I think maybe he wrote it too. I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyways, it was cool. It was a wild film that it's one of those twists and turn movies that you just have no idea where it's going. And then it ends and you're like, what the fuck? And then you're thinking about it and looking shit up about it and like, what is going on? It was wild. It was really wild. It does take a little bit of time to pick up. Stick with it. Like, it really is going somewhere great. So just stick with it.
Oh, shit. That's the same director of Escape from Tomorrow?
I don't know what that is.
The movie that's famous for being filmed inside Disney World.
Oh, is it Ben Wheatley?
Yeah, he's one of the co-directors of that. I didn't realize
I didn't know that either. His name is Ben Wheatley, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I didn't realize that either.
Like that movie.
Oh.
Anyway, go ahead.
I am continuing on my Studio Ghibli run, and I watched The Wind Rises, which I really liked. A lot less fantastical, more grounded. And again, another one about fucking World War II or like right before World War II, which they either have these like grand fantasy adventures or really depressing World War II stories, apparently. But it was good. I really liked it. It focuses on an engineer who's designing airplanes that they want to use like in the war or whatever. But it was beautiful and sad, of course. And I watched Ponyo, which was very cute. Definitely like the cutesiest of them. It does have some amazing animation, though. There's this one scene where it's the tsunami and it's like the waves are these fish and it's beautiful. It looks amazing. But I liked it. It's essentially kind of like The Little Mermaid in a lot of ways and kind of Pinocchio mixed, I guess. But very cutesy, beautiful animation, and had a good vibe. I liked it generally. And then one thing that I was not able to watch because apparently I'm out of my mind and it doesn't exist. So to give a little context, I've been on this Alice in Chains kick a little bit, and somehow I clicked on this link one day of the lead singer from Bush singing Wood as a cover. And since then, I will then get suggestions for Bush songs. So there was another one of recently he did Stephen Colbert show where he did a new rendition of Glycerine or whatever. So I watched that. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, man.
Pronounce it as in the song.
Well, I know. But it's just so I was like, oh shit, I got to check out that Weird Al parody of this song because I love that shit when I was younger.
Fucking idiot.
Dude, went to YouTube, okay, to look up because the version that I have is in my mind. Like these lyrics are in my mind of don't let the glaze go dry, Krispy Kreme. Is how it goes. Like, don't let the days go by, Glycerine. Don't let the glaze go dry, Krispy Kreme. So I type in Weird Al, Krispy Kreme, nothing. So I was like, okay, Weird Al, Glycerine, parody, nothing.
Weird Al,
and I was
Froggy
like,
Fresh.
And I was like, oh shit, did he not have a video for this? I could have sworn I saw a video. So then I go to Google, nothing. So I type in, here's what's really weird about it. I type in the lyrics and I'm like losing my mind now. I'm like full Mandela effect. I'm like, dude, I have heard this song. I liked this song. I type in those lyrics specifically, and like 2 searches come up with that, where one person was saying like, ha ha ha, my friend totally misheard the lyrics and typed that exact line out. And then one other thing that like pulled up that but had nothing to do with that. And I was like, what is happening right now? It is the only time where I truly feel like a Mandela effect. Like I am not that meme. I am not clever enough to make those lyrics or to just have that song in my head. I don't know what is happening. It's freaking me out. So if anyone in any way has ever thought that Weird Al had a parody of Glycerine where he's talking about Krispy Kreme donuts, please message me because I'm losing my mind right now. It's crazy.
It sounds to me so like I never heard this song or thought that it existed in any way, but it sounds to me like something that, like, you know, in the schoolyard, kids would just like sing random shit like that would be inspired by Weird Al kind of lyrics.
Maybe, but I don't know. I like so specifically like can hear it.
Here's my theory is something similar to Bob's. There's two things I could imagine. One is we grew up in the era of Napster. Did you ever Napster? Because every song parody that was ever recorded and put on Napster was labeled as Weird Al.
Not Weird Al. I had like Weird Al albums and like soundtracks that would have a Weird Al song on them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just I don't remember. I don't ever specifically remember Napstering and having that song on like a mixtape that I made. Because at that point I was making like Mudvayne and Slipknot mixtapes, not like Weird Al. By that time Napster had come out, I was kind of like in that era of making mixtapes.
The core of the Mandela effect is like people misremembering their formative years in some way. And so I could see that. Like I remember hearing a fucking Mambo No. 5 parody where it was Bill Clinton listing the women he slept with and it was labeled as weird.
Which is it's just Napster. Weird that there's no search of it though. I was anticipating like, oh, did I misremember this is Weird Al? This is like totally something, and there's just it doesn't exist.
Well, so here's my other theory that I think holds more water and is really because I know you, I think that this is very possible. I think it's very possible that on one senior skip day or early morning donut run or some shit with some friends, you fucked around in the car, came up with this thing. Is like, that's as good as Weird Al would come up with.
That's probably,
are the only two parts that still remain in the brain.
That is very possible. Man, that was a kick-ass song he made.
Yeah, man, he's the best.
That's fair enough. Yeah. But if anybody else is on that level and
if anybody else was
Mandela
in the car
effect,
that day, let me know.
Yeah.
Hit me up.
That is our audience. People that are in the car with us at some point or another
right now.
Anyways, Bob, what you been watching, my guy?
Did you watch something?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I watched a couple things. American Fiction. I got out to the theater and saw that film. It is nominated for an Oscar for movie of the year, I believe. Maybe some other ones. That's the only one that I can remember offhand right now. I didn't really know anything going into it. It's very much like a darker comedy. I thoroughly fucking enjoyed it and highly recommend watching it if you get the chance to do so. It's about this black author, and he's written several novels that have done well, but they're not like super popular. He's not selling like a ton of copies, and some of his colleagues are finding more success than he is, and they're writing these books about young black folks growing up in like difficult situations, and they're written in ways that are not like, I guess, the way like a professor would write. They're more like sort of common tongue. And he sort of like looks down on these books, even though they're like selling like wildfire, and he just needs money to help his family out. So he writes one of these books, and he uses a pseudonym, and it fucking blows up, and it's like nominated for like book of the year and like all this crazy stuff. And it just
real Candyman situation there, huh?
Oh, totally. It leads to funny fucking shit. It's really quite funny. It's also
that much of a comedy.
Like, it's like
I got the impression that it was way more like
dramatic.
than comedy,
it's
but-
like half and half, I guess I would say. So
Okay.
it's got a lot of like really heartfelt like family drama kind of stuff happening too. But it is funny. I was kind of surprised at how hard it had me laughing. But it's got a lot of heart, a ton of heart. It's just
I love that
really
Jeffrey
good.
Wright. He's a fucking great actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
It's also got such a small role, but Keith David is also in it for like a
fucking
minute.
Keith
Hell yeah, dude.
David.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Boy doesn't miss. Doesn't
No.
miss.
No, really enjoyed that. Definitely check it out if you get the chance. I also watched Dumb Money on Netflix, which is a movie like a
What's
sort
the
of.
movie with Retta?
I
or
don't know.
somebody?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, never mind. Continue.
Maybe. It's a retelling of the whole GameStop stock option exploding thing that happened a few years ago. And it's got Paul Dano. He plays like the main guy in it. Seth Rogen is in it. Some other folks that you recognize. It's definitely like a funny retelling of this. It's got some decent comedy. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I did like after it ended. I found myself wanting more. Like I wanted them to go like deeper into the finances and how everything like worked and stuff. But overall, it's a solid like Netflix watch. I did enjoy my time with it. Finally, I watched Roadhouse for the first time. The original Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze.
We're hunting for dick.
It's fine. It is okay.
Blasphemy, Bob.
I know.
Bob, you're gonna catch all kinds
To
of
be
shit
honest,
for that.
I've never seen Roadhouse either.
People
I've
love
seen it. I like it fine. I kind of am in the same camp, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those
Kind of like
movies,
Dirty
like
Dancing.
Mini. Like if you
Like,
saw
people
it at
love
a,
it. Yeah.
if you saw it at a certain time in your life, it probably means a lot more to you than it did to
Yeah.
me seeing it later.
Yeah. That's going to be like down the road. That's going to be like Iron Man or
Right.
the first Avengers movie. People are gonna be like, yeah, it was all right. But it's like, kind of had to be there.
That's how cult classics are formed a lot of the time. It's just like,
Yeah.
Right place,
repetition
right time.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my boy Frankie.
My boy Frank.
my boy Frankie.
I didn't like it was a fun watch. Like I had a good time when I was watching it, but it's like it's ridiculous and silly and like
Yeah.
it's fine. I will say like Sam Elliott shows up and this is I mean
He rules.
he's still like salt and pepper in it, but he's a younger Sam Elliott and he is the coolest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. He is so fucking cool in this movie. It's ridiculous.
So you're so psyched for that Gyllenhaal revival?
Yeah, in that I watched the trailer for that remake and Jake Gyllenhaal kicks ass. Like he's a great actor, but I don't know, man. I don't know about that remake.
I think
didn't
he
know
just like
anything
kind
about
of he
this.
kind of does a Nick Cage level of just like sort of going out there and trying out a project.
Yeah.
When he's good, he's fucking great, and when he's just working, he's just working. Like,
Yeah, I do like. I'm sure they fucking wrote him a check, son. But I do like they changed the setting from like middle of nowhere Texas to like the Florida Keys. That'll be like an interesting setting, I guess, at least. But it's got that McGregor guy in it, and like I don't give a fuck about that dude at all.
Oh no.
I don't know much about him, but yeah,
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah,
I mean, for a movie that's about like just meat hitting meat, dudes punching and kicking each other,
meat
like,
on meat.
that's fine. He is a side of
Going to
beef.
hit some meat.
I'm gonna hit some meat with my meat.
I was informed last night that at least on a couple of occasions, wrestling fans have seen two large men battling it out and started chanting just the word meat, and I find that very, very great.
Damn. That's a meat cute right
my
there.
God.
Meat.
Damn, just taking everything down to its most basic primal.
I love it. That is like, yeah, that's the
Chant
devolution
meat
of
while
man. I
two
love it.
men, two giant men just hug each other.
Look at this meat.
Slap hams.
Damn.
Well, that's all I've been watching. Let's go ahead and get into our last segment of the evening, which is, of course, our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
Meat.
Meat. Here we
It's
go.
insane, dude. If you guys are listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We do have one voicemail this week. We're going to be hearing from our friend, the librarian. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Hey, boys. I just wanted to call and complain about some bullshit I just endured. So, it's about 10 o'clock. I'm reading in bed as per usual when suddenly I gotta pee. So I do my business, and as I'm walking back into my room, I banged my fucking pinky toe on the door frame and I cracked my nail. But, luckily, my pinky toe kind of deformed, so there was barely a toenail to begin with, but it still hurt. Anyway, yeah, there's some free feet content because I know Tarantino is listening. So, y'all have a good one. Bye!
I really like that that our call-in is just complaints about people's day. I love that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
so
fine with me.
Yeah, call in with your low-level complaints about random happenstance in your life. It's my favorite.
I want to
that shit does suck.
General status update on everybody's feet. Let me know.
Tell us about your toes.
How are they? We want to hear.
Call in and
some
tell us
of us
about your
wanna hear it.
toes.
I'm glad you don't have to get it amputated there, the librarian.
That sucks. So that's one of those pains you could just feel, you know. You're like,
I had to propose to Beck when they were on a fucking knee scooter because they decided to try and kick a ball to the dog with shoeless in the yard and broke a toe.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, that shit does suck. There's no question.
Dude, I broke my big toe in your old apartment, Randy, in
That's right. I forgot about that.
Year.
It's on camera.
Of high school. Yeah, I trying to this is so stupid.
I forgot what even this is so stupid. I just remembered what it was.
Stupid. It was one of our buddies was like, "Hey man, just kick me in the nuts right now." And I was like, Are you serious?
We were filming things for laughs.
Yeah,
and of course this is primetime jackass years.
And he was like, "Yeah, kick me in the nuts." And I was like, "Okay, you're like 100% serious. Like this is
and he put a pillow over his dick, so it wasn't gonna hurt."
Yeah, so I was like, I didn't have a shoe on. I went to go kick him in the nuts, and he sort of like sidestepped at the very last second, and I kicked him right in the kneecap, and you could just hear my toe crack.
We have that crack on record. I could watch that on VHS right now.
And then I had to go to band camp the next day.
That's
like March with a broken toe. It wasn't great.
It's a snap, man. It's a real snap.
Yeah.
That shit
Damn,
sucks.
dude.
Yep. So call in and tell us about your toes.
Yeah. Let us know. How are your feet doing? 904-638-3231. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show per usual.
Call in with your Mandela effects, please.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Is there anything else?
That's probably.
Do you have any like unique Mandela effects, or is there one that you just swear by that's like pretty popular? But I'm kind of curious about like really unique, like my Krispy Kreme situation going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit us up. Let us know about your false memories because you're old. Let us know.
Call in and tell
about
us
your
about
slipping mind.
Yeah. Tell us about your faulty cerebrum.
Yeah.
Well, that couldn't be me. I mean, I'm only 23, so.
Can't be me. Let us know. 904-638-3231.
My log has something to tell you.
Next week, we're going to be talking about the winner of the February poll, which currently seems to be From Beyond from 1986.
Till Byzantium shoots to the top last minute.
Man, I hope not, because I'm going to watch From Beyond pretty soon. So
wait till Thursday.
Yeah,
I've had that shit on 4K for like 2 years and still haven't cracked it yet.
Not you sound like
1
Bob.
year. I know.
What
the man has rubbed
loser.
Physically and otherwise.
You said it, Bob. Damn.
Well, yeah, check out From Beyond. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, if you want to find us on social media, just search Straight Chilling Podcast. We will pop right up. If you want to join in our daily Slack channel conversations, we talk about the movie of the week. We talk about TV shows. We got a True Detective channel created. We're talking about the new season. We trade recipes. We share pictures of our pets. It's wholesome. It's good fun. Just let us know on one of those social media outlets if you want to join in. and I'll send you a link so you can do so. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
I can smell a beaver from 30 miles away. Beaver!